My work deals a lot with the appearance of color and why it triggers something in us, and this in a somehow biological way. When I started doing art, everything was black and white. And for me, this was important because I come from a conceptual practice, and for me, clarity was very important. I realized only after a while that somehow I was looking for clarity, but I was avoiding complexity somehow. And to deal more with reality, I wanted to let color into my practice. But then I wasn't sure which color I could actually start with, because it's so manifold and so complex. I realized that the color that would intrigue me most was actually the surface of the human, so like the skin color. So I would start to play around, or like to look into the appearance of skin color as a monochrome basis, which it's actually skin is never monochrome. It's also in itself very complicated surface of pigment. I'm very interested in everyday objects, as you say, the water bottle. I was doing the residency in Venice at the time, and I saw water bottles seeping in canals. And there were these bottles from kind of everywhere in the world. I found it really fascinating to think who would actually have drunk the water and left their genetic traces in them. I thought about also the shape of this object, which looks like a mannequino, like a small version of our body somehow. The idea was also to simulate a content that would look like a filling of yourself, so that you could actually drink a liquid that fills yourself with yourself. Also, with this monochrome filled volume, we would think of skin color, but skin color is actually never monochrome. And the idea of drinking water as something pure, I was very interested in to contradict this idea of clarity and innocence, that water is something that's almost immaterial then, like air. And I'm very interested to think about these elements that are supposedly immaterial as totally material. So, for example, in water, we have next to water many trace amounts that in mineral water would be like only great properties, as it's proclaimed. It's the minerals that are important for your body. But next to that, also some minerals can actually be damaging in certain amounts. We have the problem that the water is actually in contact with the plastics that the PET bottles that I'm working with contain. So there are agents in the plastic, like for example phthalates, that are softeners, for example, that can interact with our hormonal system. Somehow I'm looking for complexity always, and probably also complication. I don't like that something looks too simple. And I think in the end nothing is simple. And while we're drinking water, we're somehow dying a little bit anyway too. Even though it's nice and refreshing to drink water and it will help more than it damages in general, I like to contradict ideas that may seem too one-dimensional.
Aliyah, the princess of R&B. Opno craft brass ram darbar sculpture Hindu. Aran aged brass 3 light floor lamp.
It's really interesting how economic organisms like Amazon are profiting from the idea of nature also as a figure or a symbol. Like, for example, the starting symbol was an A that was curved through with the Amazon River. And the inspiration was to create an organism that's as powerful and diverse and huge as the Amazon rainforest and ecosystem. So this is a very beautiful idea, but obviously you can't create a big commercial organism without somebody that pays for it. And I think with Amazon, it's a very interesting moment and an interesting object of thought to think about how nature pays part with the capital of nature, actually, that we should define much more clearly what this means. So I wanted to create environments where this becomes sensually crisp, so that the beauty of green light becomes supernatural and too harsh, and that cacophony of voices of the diversity in the rainforest that are purely beautiful become like so forceful that we understand also on one hand that nature is also not just beautiful but also brutal, but on the other hand also what we lose, and so that it becomes a very complex moment of reflection. When we go in, already the light radiates through the doors, and we see this ceiling of light that is green and some blue, and that imitates a situation where light from the sky comes through the leaves of the Amazon rainforest. And there's a huge pyramid, a pile of terra preta, which is an earth that was produced in the Amazon rainforest traditionally. I think it's really interesting to bring in this material, as you can also sense it, you can smell the density of a very small ecosystem in earth, the fermentation, like the whole microbiota that develops in earth via these processes, that is so important, and we hardly perceive it. But because it's there with the green light and the sound, this cacophony of Amazon sounds that I installed with the Amazon speaker Alexa, and that runs backwards. So it becomes a very sensual space that's overloaded with impulses, with this earth smell, with the sound and the light.
Acer R3131 TC111 6 touchscreen laptop Celeron 160 GHz Acer S241H Ultimate 24-inch widescreen LCD monitor.
Actually, Alexa, she was running down all the products, diagonally speaking to herself, and she would be starting with A, and she would obviously never get out beyond A, because she was starting in the morning and she would end in the evening, and it wouldn't give her enough time, as the myriad of products of Amazon is so vast. I somehow would like to create a feeling that we are mammals too, and that we follow instincts, and sometimes we don't realize it, but we can learn to realize it, and we can do that with our consciousness. So somehow I think art can raise consciousness, and in that sense, I want to create something beautiful but disturbing. Louise Bourgeois, she said it's a privilege to be an artist. And I think it's important to see it that way. It's not something that's given, or not everybody has the possibility to work as an artist. So to have this time and to be able to work on art, this time and space, it's very unique, and I think we should find a way to do something with this time to give also. So I totally agree with her, and I think it was great she said that very aggressively somehow. It's not good to disappear as an artist and to close. I think we should open more.